What is up, you sick mother bluffers? Welcome back to the channel. In this one, I play a wild, deep stacked 1-2 session in a bar in downtown Portland. Let's jump into it. I buy in for 500 and on my very first hand, I get dealt king jack offsuit in the low jack. Under the gun and middle position players limp before I raise it up to 10, then I get calls from the button and under the gun. We go three ways to a flop of ace queen 4 rainbow. Under the gun checks to me, and I think this is a great board for me to continue. I fire for 20, and the button goes all in for 48. Under the gun gets out of the way. It's only 28 more to me. If the button is holding an ace, I'm almost getting the right price to call. I don't really like calling off on the draw though. This is my first time playing in this game, and I think this is a good opportunity to give a little bit of action and keep the game fun. So since we're heads up, I actually asked my opponent what they want me to do.
I have a gut shot. Do you want me to call you? I'll literally do what you tell me to. Call? Call? Okay, call.
So I make the call, and my opponent shows ace 7 offsuit. The turn and river do not improve me, and they're going to take this pot down. In this one, I get dealt king queen suited in the cutoff. There's a limp from the low jack before the hijack raises to 12. I'm going to bump it up to 40, and everybody folds. The very next shuffle, I'm now in the hijack, and I get dealt pocket aces. Let's go. Action folds to me, and I open to 10. I get a call from the cutoff and the button. We go three ways to a flop of king, queen, queen, rainbow. I decide to start things off with a check. The cutoff bets 10, and the button raises to 100. This is the same opponent from the first hand. They've been one of the most active players at the table, and I've seen them go to showdown in big pots with pretty marginal holdings. I'm not super concerned about the cutoff. I don't think they're ever leading with a queen, so my focus is on the button. They could definitely have a queen, but from what I've seen so far, I think they're capable of doing this with a king too. Looking at my options, I think a fold is reasonable. I can wait for a better spot to play a big pot. I think if I call, I'm pretty much committing myself to this hand since the button only has about 130 behind. And then there's the third option, all in, which is probably the worst because I give them the opportunity to sometimes fold a king, and I obviously never get a queen to fold. That's the worst option, so naturally, that's the one I go for. I put the button all in, cutoff gets out of the way, and the button snap calls. With queen 8 offsuit, turn is a blank, my opponent boats up on the river, and they take a massive pot down. Nice hand to them, I get taken to Value Town. This game plays very deep stacked. Most players have about 1,000 in front of them, so I reload for another 500. Time to regroup and stop punting. In this one, we're playing a $10 lockout, which is something I was not familiar with prior to this game. In a lockout, the button gets to pick the amount for which the other players must come into the hand. In this case here, it's 10 bucks. Players can decide to fold or call, but they cannot raise. Only the button can raise, at which point the action reopens to the other players. I'm on the button in this one with ace jack 10-7-6 double suited. Oh yeah, the game of choice is 5 card, no limit Omaha. The cutoff and hijack make the call, and I check. We go three ways to a flop of 7 jack 8 2 hearts. I flop 2 pair, a gut shot straight draw, and the nut flush draw. Action is on the hijack, and they decide to just rip their entire stack in. The cutoff snap 3 bets all in, and yeah, there's no way I'm folding here. I make the call, so we got a pretty massive pot brewing as we head to the turn, which comes to 8 of hearts. I make my flush, but one of my opponents could have a full house. The river is the 4 spades. I announce nut flush, and it's good. Let's freaking go. I take down a huge pot, and I'm now in the black for the evening. This one, I'm in the low jack and I get dealt pocket 8s. There's a limp from under the gun 1. I go ahead and limp. The hijack and button limp as well. Small blind completes and the big blind checks their option. We go 6 ways to a flop of king 8 3 rainbow. Yes! Under gun 1 checks. I think this board is safe enough to check and let 1 or 2 of my opponents catch up. Unfortunately, the action checks around. The turn comes to 10 of hearts. Small blind leads for 10. Action folds to me. I want to build up this pot and make up for lost value on the flop. I raise to 30. Sadly, everyone, including the small blind, folds. Disappointing to not pick up a bigger pot when this game has been action city so far. We're playing a $15 lockout in this one, and I'm in the hijack with 7-7-5 deuce deuce. The entire table wants to see a flop, and the button decides to check their options, so with already 120 bucks in the pot, we go 8 ways to a flop of 9 deuce king rainbow. I flop bottom set. Action checks around to me. Flopping bottom set in 5-card Omaha is good, but it's unlikely to be best by the river. Fortunately for me, this board is pretty dry, so unless I'm already up against a bigger set, I have a good chance of taking this one down with a bet. I lead out for 50, and everyone folds. Nice to pick up an extra $100 uncontested. Here we're playing a $10 lockout, and I'm on the button with Ace King 963 with the nut hard draw. 4 players come into the hand. I check, so we go 5 ways to a flop of 5, 6, 5, 2 clubs. Action pretty quickly checks around, so when the turn comes to 6 of diamonds, I'm pretty confident I have the best hand. Once again, it gets checked to me. I bet 45, and the cutoff is the only player to make the call. The river is the jack of diamonds, and the cutoff checks to me. I'm not sure there's much value in betting here. I think it's likely my opponent missed a straight or flush draw and is giving up. I check back, show my 6, and it's good. In his hand, I pick up Ace King suited in the low jack. The button put a $5 straddle out, and the cutoff back straddled to 10. Action is now back on the button, and they make the call. So do the undergun 1 and middle position players before I bump it up to 50, and the button is the only player to make the call. We go heads up to a flop of deuce 3, 4, 2 spades, and both myself and the button check. The turn is beautiful. It's the ace of diamonds. I'm just hoping the button does not hold a random 5, which is not impossible in this game. I'm not going to let that hold me back though. I bet out for 75, and the button makes the fold. Last hand of the vlog, it's another $10 lockout, and I'm in the low jack with ace ace queen 9-4 with the nut diamond draw, although I am holding 2 of my outs, so not necessarily a hand as pretty as it looks. 4 players enter the hand. I also would love to see a flop. Remember, I can't raise, I can only call at this point, and the button decides that $10 is good enough. We go 6 ways to a flop of jack 8 ace 2 diamonds. Wow. I flopped the nut flush draw and a set of aces, giving me a redraw to a full house. Action checks to me, and I want to build this pot up right now. I bet 50, and the cutoff is the only player to make the call. The turn is the 5 of spades. Thinking about the hands my opponent could call flop with, I think they most likely have at least a set of 8s, maybe jacks, and possibly some straight draws to go with it, like king queen, queen 10, 10 9. I want to get value from the sets and charge the draws, so I bet 110. The cutoff tanks for over a minute before making the call, so it's looking more and more like they have a set of 8s or jacks and are proceeding with caution. The river comes a pretty brick looking deuce of hearts. 3-4 does get there, but I don't think there's a lot of combos of 3-4 in my opponent's range at this point. It looks like they have about 300 behind, and I want all of it. No snap call, thankfully, so I know for sure I have the best hand, and now I'm praying the cutoff calls. They tank for another minute before making the fold. No! Nice fold. I still pick up a very nice pot. This concludes this episode. What an absolute crazy game this was. I was lucky to run good in a couple of key spots. I was in for $1,000 and ended up cashing out for $1,700, booking a $700 profit. Definitely a super nice result after getting stuck $300 early on. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate if you could let YouTube know by hitting the like button and dropping a comment. If you want to see more of my videos, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Next episode is going to be a little bit special, as we'll be headed to the online streets as I make a very, very deep run in a tournament. Hope to see you there. In the meantime, thanks for watching, good luck at the tables, and catch you in the next one.